Hello, fabulous friends and fans. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and welcome to this episode of Nadiya Shah Productions. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so elated about today's episode because I get to talk to my friend, my very good friend, Franco Minatel. Franco is amazing. He is known throughout the astrological community here in Toronto, especially because he is a true diviner. He is able to divine with just about anything. You throw anything at him. You throw a rune at him, a tarot card, you give him a napkin, you give him your cigarette, whatever you give him, he can use it as a tool for divination. He is that good. He's also an accomplished astrologer. He writes horoscopes that you can read on his website, soulbody.ca. And he is a musician, a true Aries, just following his creative impulse and putting purity and joy and youthful energy out into the world. I am so thrilled to celebrate with you my dear friend who has brought wisdom and inspiration into my own life, Franco Minatel. Franco, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let me take it back to the beginning, because as my audience knows, I love taking it back to the beginning. How did you get started in divination?
Well, I remember I was living in Detroit at the time, and my first taste of it was my older sister had tarot cards, and so she gave us readings, and being an engineer by background, I thought it was a bit hokey. And then she started taking astrology with Julie Simmons, and she says, here's what my astrologer says about you. She proceeds to tell me all these things, and I'm going, you got that from a chart? Yeah, bull. Absolute bull. And she goes, no, she did. And I said, yeah, you told her all that stuff. And she said, no. She got it from your birthday, your time of birth, and place of birth. And she got all that. Get out of here. I didn't believe her.
Yeah, Julie Simmons is amazing, and she was on an earlier episode, and yeah, she's been so inspiring to so many of us.
Oh yeah, Julie's a wonderful astrologer, a brilliant mind. At the time I didn't quite believe it, but that's when I was talking to another friend, and she says to me, I told her that it's almost like I'm psychic, and she goes, well, maybe you are. Okay, keep in mind I'm an engineer, so this concept doesn't really sink in. And I go, okay, here's the engineer looking at it. What if I am? What can I do to develop that? And she goes, well, grab a deck of tarot cards. Oh, okay, I know what those are. So I go to the local occult shop around the corner. I was living in the beach, and there was one down there. I walk into the store, and I said to the lady, I go, have you got tarot cards? And there's a whole case. Which one do I get? The one that appeals to you. Oh. Half an hour later, looking at this one, looking at that one, looking at the other one, I finally picked one. And so I take it home, and I ended up buying the Aleister Crowley Thoth deck.
That's the deck I use.
Wow.
Beautiful deck.
It is. It's a gorgeous deck. The artwork on there is absolutely amazing. Very powerful deck. Also very powerful when the little instruction booklet has elements of ceremonial magic, which most of us, at that time, had no clue what it was all about. And I remember this booklet distinctly. They've since changed it. It's not the same booklet. Because I read through all the description of the cards, and then, following the Aleister Crowley method of divination. So you pick out a significator, and then you take all the cards and shuffle them all around. And then it says to hold your wand over the cards. Wand?
I know, he did things very strangely, Crowley.
I go, look, I got a wand here. My finger's a wand.
Wow.
And then you proceed to invoke the great HRU. Well, at that point, it felt like a veil was dropped over me. And I'm looking at the words, and all of a sudden I just said to myself, I don't think I should have said that. So I finished with the reading, and now I'm spooked. I don't know what to do. And so I called my sister the next day at work. I go, I bought a deck of tarot cards. And she goes, oh yeah, which one? The Aleister Crowley Top deck? She goes, why'd you buy that one? Well, the lady at the store said buy one that
it's a very powerful deck.
appeals to you. So anyway, and then she says, yeah, so. Well, I was following the instructions in the booklet, and it said to invoke something. You didn't invoke something, did you? Oh, I don't know, it said to do it in the book. She goes, you never invoke anything. Well, I don't know, it said to do it in the book. So anyway, I went back to the store, and I proceeded to tell them, and I said, and it said to invoke something. You didn't invoke something, did you? What is this? I just want to buy a deck of tarot cards. Leave me alone. So anyway, I ended up buying a different deck and started working with those.
Okay, and then what did you do with the Crowley deck?
I hid them. I'm serious. I was so spooked by them because, you know, that was my first introduction to the occult. And like most things I do, I usually go off the deep end.
Yeah, and Crowley can be pretty intense. I mean,
Yeah.
he was quite the practitioner and has quite the legacy. So
He does. So anyway, after that, then I started working with the tarot cards and tried to do tarot card readings with other things. And then hanging out at the occult shop. Not the occult shop, but at this particular occult shop, it isn't around anymore. Started talking to the proprietors and going back with questions, because at that point I was going through a crisis of faith. I was, you know, with being Italian, I was raised Catholic, and just wasn't sitting right. And I said, well, what are you guys? They go, well, we're Wiccan, we're witches. Oh, so you worship Satan? Looked at me, shook their heads. No, we're pagans. Well, doesn't that mean you worship Satan? I said, no, that's what the Catholic Church has brainwashed you to believe. I go, so who do you worship? He goes, have you heard of Zeus? Have you heard of Athena? I go, oh yeah, the Greek gods from mythology. Yeah, no, those are actually our gods. Oh. And then there was a whole thing I started thinking about. Wow. Okay, well, God could be a woman? That's interesting. And, you know, I started thinking about it. Well, at least on this planet, there's two sexes. There's, you know, I understand there's good, there's bad, there's hot and cold. These are basic principles in life. And I went, oh, okay, man, woman, hot, cold. Started making sense. So I started asking more about them, you know, their practice and what it was involved. And eventually got invited into their circle and started learning from them.
divination was a part of this,
Yes.
the religion.
Divination, for me, it's like it's part of everything. I don't believe anything happens by accident. Everything has a reason and a purpose. When you were saying about how you could throw anything at me in like a napkin and let me read that, that's one of the things I've started to work on to develop the divination aspect, is to actually take an object like a dinner plate. Everything's interconnected, so any type of energy they had was put on their dinner plate. And so what was left over on their dinner plate reflects the story of their life at that given time. Is the art of reading energy off an object. So if you have a ring, it's usually one of the things, for instance, this ring was worn by me and only me, and same with this one. And so you can take this, and if I were to give it to you, you hold it in your hand, you can pick up my life story and what can happen to me.
Like all the energetic experiences that you've had, all the feelings that you have gone into that object.
That's correct.
And because the past is sort of a determinant, it doesn't have to be a determinant of the future, but it can be.
Actually, just reading In Search of the Miraculous by Ozymandias, which is based on the work of Girchov. He has a great line in there that says, to know the future, you have to know the present. To know the present, you have to know the past. And that's basically the premise. So where we come from determines where we are now, right? And so in order to understand where we're going to go from here, we have to understand the past.